Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, and welcome to another edition of the State of the Saints podcast live. Thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I want to give a special shout out to anybody that has taken their Friday night and listening to your boy. I know it's Friday, man. People out having a good time and stuff like that. So I appreciate you all sticking around and hanging out with your boy for a while. Beautiful September 6, 2019. See, I got the date right this time. I think last episode I said like it was October 31st or something. I don't know what was going on. Well, I'll tell you what was going on. Before the show actually started, I was talking about that Halloween game. I don't know if some of you probably remember, but it was when the Saints took on the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns ended up beating the Saints in the Superdome on Halloween when Couch threw that Hail Mary. I was talking about that before the show, and I guess it was stuck in my mind. So instead of me saying August 31st, I think I said October 31st. But anyway, man, thank you for taking a part in a podcast. And in a few minutes, I am going to tell you all how we're going to announce the winner of the State of the Saints podcast t-shirt. I said if we get 2,000 subscribers by week 1, somebody is going to get a t-shirt. So in the middle of this show, I am going to ask a question, and then whoever gives me the answer first, that is who is going to get the t-shirt. I thought that would be much easier than me to just pick a subscriber, and I end up picking somebody that don't exist. So later on in the show, I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to let you know how you can get in touch with me in order for you to have an opportunity to win a free State of the Saints podcast t-shirt. But let's go ahead and talk about some topics that need to be discussed. First things first, I know everybody is excited about the week 1 matchup, the New Orleans Saints taking on the Houston Texans. I thought that was this is going to be a great game. I can't wait. I mean, all this preseason stuff is over, man. We already know who, the final 53 is. A lot of people, we were shocked, didn't make the team. And I think a couple of people that didn't make the team going to come back and bite the Saints. But that's another story for another day. But they are taking on the Houston Texans, led by Deshaun Watson, the quarterback of the Texans, who talked to the media, and he was talking about how much respect he had for Drew Brees and how he couldn't believe that Drew Brees has never been regular season MVP. You're not the only one, Deshaun. I mean, man, people been hating on Drew Brees for years. I mean, everybody's saying that he has been great in a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning NFL, but I mean, that's irrelevant, man. The fact of the matter is, man, people just don't like Drew Brees for some apparent reason. I mean, the guy does everything right. He's a leader. He's a guy who a lot of people just love and respect, but for some apparent reason, he gets no respect from the NFL media, and I just don't know why, man. But Deshaun Watson said he had a lot of respect for Drew Brees, and he's looking forward to playing the Saints in the Superdome. Man, this is a big test for the Saints. I mean, the Houston Texans are one of those teams that always are in playoff contention. They always are close to or being the AFC South champions in their division every single year. I mean, yeah, they go to the wild cards and they lay an egg every single year, but the Houston Texans are a really good football team. They got a great pass rush led by J.J. Watt. They got Merciless. I mean, they got a veteran like Jonathan Joseph. I mean, they got some guys that are on that team that are straight up leaders, and not to mention former LSU running back Alfred Blue. Lamar Miller, who tore his ACL at practice, he's out for the season. But the Saints will see a familiar face with Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills is a new Houston Texan. He ended up getting traded along with Laramie Tunsil, the left tackle, to the Houston Texans. I think the Houston Texans gave up a first-round pick to get Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills. So the Houston Saints are going to be ready in the last 4 years, man, opening season. Okay, opening the season, the Saints are on a 4-game losing streak. And this is something that I feel like we need to pay attention to, man. I want to see the Saints start the season on a high note. I want to see them go out there and and win this game. I mean, there's honestly no excuse for them not to win. I mean, it's a home game. It's primetime television. I mean, I know the dome going to be rocking. I think it's going to be similar to the NFC Championship game because everybody is ready to cheer for the Saints. I mean, just that NFC Championship game. I mean, I know the Saints had some preseason games, but I don't count that. But the last time we really seen these starters on the field playing for something that matters was the NFC Championship game. And that was when the Superdome was at its loudest point. I have never heard the Superdome that loud. And I think that is going to be replicated in this week one game because, don't get me wrong, excuse my French. You got a lot of Saints fans that are pissed off. And they're pissed off at the fact that how the Saints season ended. And they're ready to cheer for the black and gold. And if we see the same New Orleans Saints that had that first drive against the New York Jets, I'm talking about on offense and defense, they're going to be a problem. They are going to be a problem. Look, I understand about J.J. Watt. I understand about Deshaun Watson. I understand about Hopkins, the wide receiver. A lot of people rank him as the best wide receiver in the National Football League. But at the end of the day, I don't care who you have. Like, when the Saints are motivated and that dome is rocking, they hard to beat. But I'm interested to see one matchup. I'm looking forward to seeing Ryan Ramczyk go up against J.J. Watt. Now, the last time the New Orleans Saints played the Houston Texans, the voice of the Saints now, Zach Strief, was the right tackle. And, I mean, he was getting beat like a Persian rug out there. I love me some Zach Strief. I mean, the guy has been a cornerstone for the Saints for years, man, before he retired. But, man, he was getting whooped out there. But now you have Ryan Ramczyk, who has been in the league going into the third season, and he has only given up one sack. One sack, you know what I'm saying, in 2 NFL seasons. So Ryan Ramczyk is one of those guys who a lot of people don't really talk about, but he is ranked number 2 according to Pro Football Focus at his position. So I'm interested to see him go up against J.J. Watt, and I'm also interested to see if the Saints can generate a pass rush versus Deshaun Watson. Now, I don't think this should give the Saints too many fits because the Saints kind of see these type of quarterbacks in the division with a Cam Newton and with Jameis Winston. I think Deshaun Watson is better than Jameis Winston, but excuse me. I think that Deshaun Watson is kind of similar to what those guys can do, a dual threat quarterback that can hurt you with his arm and his leg. So I'm interested to see what the Saints are going to do. I'm interested to see how much Kiko Alonso, the new linebacker for the Saints, is going to play. I wonder how they're going to line him up. I wonder if he's going to be able to grasp enough of the playbook in order for him to play for a long period of time. And I'm interested to see if some of these younger players transition and make that jump from year 1 to year 2. So those are some things I'm looking forward to. And feel free to comment and let me know, what are you looking forward to, going into this week 1 matchup against the Houston Texans. I'm really looking forward to that. So I want to talk a little bit about this Drew Brees situation. If you haven't heard, Drew Brees, he did a commercial for this religious group, and it was for children, encouraging them to bring their Bibles to school. Now, Drew Brees started this off with, he quoted one of his favorite Bible verses, and he talked about how, he loves the Lord with all his soul, mind and strength. And he talked about how he wanted kids to, carry the word of God with them to school. Now, regardless if you're religious or not, I mean, the whole message was something positive. But what happened was, I guess the group that Drew Brees was quote unquote representing, they got up, they are what they call, I guess, an anti-LGBTQ community. I guess they're against them or something like that, because I guess they're about family values, and they feel like family values is between a man and a woman. And Drew Brees got some backlash because of that, because they looked at Drew Brees as if he was a lobbyist, like he's a guy that's supporting this group and he's against LGBT. And Drew Brees heard about this and he was very upset. You know how it is, man. Drew Brees is probably the most politically correct individual you ever gonna find. He always says the right things. He always says the right things. He always does the right things, but it takes a lot to make him upset. But he ended up making this video that was a minute and 49 seconds. And he was talking about, how he loves everybody. He's not against anybody. He talked about he just wanted to encourage kids to bring the Bible to school because he's a religious guy. He wrapped in his faith, and he doesn't have any hatred in his heart. And I just think that is wrong for them to go at Drew Brees like that. I mean, nothing about Drew Brees' track record would say that he's against anybody or hates anybody. I mean, has any malice against anybody. So I don't understand where that come from. I think we need to just be careful. I think that we live in a society today where people are quick to rush to judgment, and we judge people that we don't even know. Like, we see a person make a comment and all of a sudden, like, we just automatically think that person is a racist, or we think this person is a sympathizer, but maybe that person is just a person with opinion and they don't have any hatred or malice in their heart for anybody. And I think that we need to stop doing those type of things, because in all seriousness, I think that we as people, we need to take the opportunity to learn about people before we actually just go out there and just criticize people. Excuse me. I think that's something that we just need to do. It only takes a few minutes for us to really just rush to judgment about somebody. And I feel like they rushed to judgment when it came to Drew Brees. And I think that Drew Brees didn't deserve that. I don't think half the people that get criticized for their opinions deserve what they get. We just need to stop that. I think we need to really understand that people are not going to think the same way that we do. That doesn't mean that they hate us. That just means that they have an opinion that's different from us. Now, I'm not talking about people that are just, racist or anything like that, but I'm talking about people that actually have an opinion. And I think that we just need to stop, because everybody's not going to like what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about this. I'm pretty sure some of my listeners of this podcast or viewers of this podcast, they have children and you love your children, but I'm pretty sure you don't like everything your children do. I'm pretty sure your children do something that may disappoint you, but that still don't stop you from loving your children and, and wanting what's best for them. And I think that's one of the cases. And I think that people just, they get that misconstrued sometimes. I mean, you don't have to like what a person does. It doesn't mean that you don't love them or you don't respect them. So I think they went at Drew Brees. I think that was wrong. I think that was terrible that they went at him like that. And I didn't feel like he had to make a video. I know, like, abroad, you will see that Drew Brees is an incredible human being. For anybody to think that this man has any malice or hatred in his heart, it just, in my opinion, just straight asinine. But what do y'all think? What do y'all think about Drew Brees and that whole bring your Bible to school controversy? I would love to hear from you. Just comment, let me know. But right now, questions that you all may have. So thank you all for submitting questions and taking. And if you know who Tim Couch is, you would know that he is by far one of the biggest draft busts in NFL history. But that's one of those games that Tim Couch actually got a victory on. So yeah. And I was talking about that game on that. I end up mistakenly calling August 31st, October 31st. Hey, Donald, how you doing, man? I appreciate you. Thank you for viewing the video. Invictus, what's going on, man? Donald James said, told you we were going to go after a linebacker. Donald, you said that to me, I think, on Facebook too. I know I didn't get to you, man. Like, Donald, I think I seen you post that yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, man. But I stay in South Carolina, and the weather was crazy out here. Hurricane Dorian kind of came through, and I was with my fiance and my son, man. And they're not used to like hurricanes and stuff like that. I mean, I'm a seasoned veteran when it comes to that, living in those years. But I just wanted to make sure that they were comfortable and stuff like that, man. So they had, man. So I'm going to contribute in a big way. I don't know why he bounced around teams as much as he did. I think he got drafted by Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken, but he ended up getting injured, and they sent him to Philadelphia, or it could be vice versa. I'm not sure, but he's always been good everywhere he went. I mean, even last year in Miami, he led the team in tackles. So good linebacker, man. I don't understand why he get bounced around so many. It might take him some time to get acclimated to the defense, but I do think he's going to contribute some way, somehow, later on down the line as he familiarizes himself with a Dennis Allen defense. All right, so Invictus says ESPN gives us a 73% chance of winning this game. Look, man, I mean, we can talk about analytics, and I like analytics, especially when it works in any given Sunday. The Saints can't pay attention to those analytics. They can't look at what's going on in the press. They got to focus on the game and play their best 60 minutes. That's it, man. Because if they don't, their 73% is going to mean absolutely nothing. So hopefully, the percentage is correct, but go out there and do their job to make that 73% accurate. Invictus says, should I start the Saints defense on fantasy this week over the Rams? I'm gonna be honest with you, because Invictus, not that the defense isn't good. It's just the fact that we all know the track record of the New Orleans Saints. That defense starts slow. They start really, really slow. And so it takes them a little while to kind of pick up. I mean, we watched some of their week one games over the years. I mean, teams were basically just doing whatever they wanted to do to these guys. So I wouldn't start over the Rams. I mean, the Rams kind of, they start the season off pretty hot, so for the past couple of years since Sean McVay has been their head coach. So I would go with the Rams defense. I would. But the Saints defense, I'm pretty sure it has improved. But I mean, if history shows us anything, it shows us that the Saints defense starts slow. So I would go with the Rams. Okay. You said you were starting the defense, Saints defense over the Rams, but I wouldn't, man. I take a second look at that. I mean, I'm not saying I would keep the Saints defense now. I would keep it because I think they're going to get better, but they always start slow. Joe says, hey there, TJ. Keep up the good work, bro. Yeah, man, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. And thank you for listening to the podcast. I'm just a guy who just enjoy talking about the Saints, man. Look, I know some of those other Saints videos, guys got the green screen in the background, and they got the scores going in the back. They probably got, Saint silhouette. Look, man, I'm not one of those high-tech operations. I'm just a fan at the end of the day. What y'all get is basically just me and some Saints apparel. I got a couple posters in the background, me and my big brother from a sports show we did in the past. I mean, I'm not all about the glitz and the glamour, man. I'm just a real Saints fan. I'm not saying those guys aren't, but that's just me, man. Like I like round table discussion type feels. I want to have conversations with you all like we're in a room together. Like we just talking and we're trying to figure out, if something going wrong with the Saints, what's wrong with them? Or, if they have success, like how do they keep winning? Like how you hang out with your friends, because that's what I consider everybody that looks and views and listens to these podcasts, man. I consider you my friend because you could be doing so much more with your time, man. Like for real, like for you to take time out, hang out with your boy, like man, I'm extremely humble. I know I say it every podcast, but I'm going to say it every podcast because it's true. So I appreciate you all for taking the time out. Thank you very much, Joe. Like you don't know how much that means to me, man. Thank you. Defense got to show up. Definitely proud. Yeah, they definitely got to show up, man. Like I said, they start off slow, but they gotta get with it, man. Look, I mean, as boring as that game was on Thursday night, the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears, like watching the Green Bay Packers defense improve like that, even though Mitchell Trubisky is hot garbage, still, man, I will see that the Green Bay Packers defense only got them boys. I mean, shut them boys down, and they only scored 3 points. You just get upset. And when you see teams like the Bears and the Vikings. And, you know, like you be like, man, why we can't have a defense like that? There ain't no excuse. I mean, the Saints have really good players, so I don't understand like why they can't shut teams down and hold them to 3 and 6 points, man. I would love to see a Saints defense like that. Honestly, like I hope they do start off strong. I really do. I hope they generating pass rush. I hope they get some turnovers. I'm talking about I want to see some guys flying around the field. That is what I want to see, man. I want to see something I have not seen before from a Saints defense. I mean, we all know what the offense can do, but I want to see what the Saints defense going to do. I want to see the defense win them some games this season. I want to see the defense take some interceptions to the house, pick some fumbles up, run them back into the end zone. That is what I want to see. That is what I want to see from a Saints defense. I feel like that's what hold the Saints back from being basically unstoppable because the defense always start out slow and they always playing catch up with the offense. Now, I mean, they kind of switch roles later in the season, you know, right after that Cowboy game, but I would like to see that consistently. Invictus says, I want the Saints to go at least 6-2 the first 8 weeks. Man, me too. I like to see them go 7-1. Sure, I like to see them go 8-0. You know what I'm saying? I would love to see that. You know, I would like to see. Look, man, I would love to see the Saints just clicking on all cylinders all season long. You know, I know that you're gonna have some slip ups. I mean, you can't win every game, you know, unless you're the 72 Dolphins. But I would love to see the New Orleans Saints really, you know, really just play their best football, man. Like last season, I feel like they had the best team they ever had. I mean, I'm even counting the team they went to the Super Bowl with. I want to see them step up this season. I want this team to be even better than the team they had last year. And that's saying something. That's probably the best team they ever had in franchise history. What do you think Kiko will do for us this year? I think he's going to be a high motor guy. I think he's going to be a person that's tackling all over the field. Like I said, Kiko Alonso is really good. He was defensive rookie of the year. He tore his ACL in his second season. He ended up getting traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. And he just bounced around the league, man. I don't understand it. I don't know why. I mean, he's always been good. He's always been one of those guys that can force turnovers. I mean, he has good hands for a linebacker. He can cover running backs. I just don't understand why he can't stay put. But the Saints are lucky to have a guy like that. And if he does anything like he did in Miami for the past couple seasons, I think the Saints got themselves something really, really special. I mean, with these trades and some of these acquisitions that the Saints got, you really can tell that the New Orleans Saints are going for it all, man. They're going for broke. The Saints have went to Vegas and they put it all on black. Like they look, it's rather do or die. That is what they're doing right now. So, man, hopefully, you know, they leave that casino with a bunch of money. All right, so Seattle is almost a guaranteed L, and Chicago is going to be a problem defensively. That's why I have us 6-2. Seattle might be a problem, but I don't think that the Saints. I don't feel like the New Orleans Saints can't beat the Seattle Seahawks. I don't care if it is at CenturyLink. I understand how loud that place is. Look, I understand, you know, people are talking about architects made this to keep sound in, and it's supposed to have so many decimals. Ooh, man, who cares, man? Look, as long as you go out there and you execute, you bring your running game, you keep that clock running. I mean, I think you'll be all right. Look, I seen the Saints go out there and they beat the Baltimore Ravens last season. The Baltimore Ravens had one of the best defenses in the league. So if the Saints bring their running game and, and they bring their lunch pail mentality, I think they can get that win. I'm not saying they're going to blow them out, but shoot, we have Will Lutz. And we call him Will Clutch now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if Will Clutch can get us a field goal to get us up out of there, a win is a win. You don't remember how you won. You know what I'm saying? You just know that you won. It don't matter if you won by a point, 7 points, 20 points. A win is a win. So let's see if they can. I believe they can. Chicago is another story, though. Chicago is another story. Took the words right out of my mouth. We beat Seattle too. Yeah. Yeah, we beat them before, but we beat them in the Superdome. It's been a while since honestly, I don't think the Saints ever beat Seattle in CenturyLink. If they have, please let me know when. I don't think they have though. I know about that game when the Saints played the Seahawks. I think it was the year the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl. Man, that was on Monday night. Man, the Saints got blew out. I'm gonna be honest with you. That was kind of the start of the Seattle Seahawks. That was showed the Seattle Seahawks arrived. It was kind of similar to you remember that 2009 game when the Saints took on the New England Patriots, and you remember when the Saints blew out the Patriots. It's kind of similar to that game. You know, like that's when people realized that the New Orleans Saints was for real. When the Seattle Seahawks blew out the Saints when they were in Seattle, like that really showed the nation that Seattle was for real. It was kind of crazy, man. It was like almost like one of them pass the torch game. Like they basically did the same thing to us we did to New England back in the day. So let me see. See if you got any more questions. Thank y'all for submitting the questions while I'm looking at them. Jared Cook is going to ball out. Man, I hope so, man. I haven't seen much of Jared Cook. Everybody was so quiet and hush-hush about why he wasn't playing. I'm pretty sure like he probably was dealing with some injuries. They want him at 100%. I ain't got no problem with that. I just hope he's not rusty. I really do. I hope he ain't too rusty. I mean, we looked at that game. Man, that game was horrible, wasn't it? That game was awful. Absolutely awful. Absolutely awful, man. Like, man, I knew it was like the first 100 seasons of the NFL, and I think like Michelle Tafoya and Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, they had on like classic 1920 outfits, but it seemed like they had a classic 1920 game. Like that game was boring, terrible. Like it was just awful, man. Like man, the preseason. I'm serious, man. Like I understand like preseason don't count, but man, you need some reps. Like you need some real game time reps. A lot of these guys, they just get reps in practice, and you're not getting that contact like you were getting a game, man. Ain't nobody gonna try to go at no Drew Brees or go at no Alvin Kamara for real at no practice because they're too valuable to the team. So I think they need reps against other players, man, and other teams. You know, I feel like that's the reason why games be so sloppy. And I think that's the reason why that game again last night that we saw was just so damn boring. Man, I mean, just absolutely awful, man. I just, oh man, that was a horrible game. Like absolutely horrible. Saints need to start fast and go 1-0. Yeah, they do need to start fast, man. They need to start really fast. Like it's been a while since they won a week one game. And they need to win one. They need to win a week one game. They have to. Like it's been a while. Sorry, man. I gotta get my Red Bull on. But anyway, they gotta start fast, man. Like I want to see the Saints win a week one game. Like that's something that they really need. Now I understand like week one games don't really matter, but you know, and usually when they lose, they probably go on a real high streak, 10-game winning streak, 8-game winning streak. I ain't mad at the streaks, but man, we want to see them win week one, man. We want to be happy the first game of the season. We want to know that they got the job done. That's all I want. Emmanuel Trigg says he's always around the ball. Good move for the Saints. Yeah, Kiko is always around the ball. And he forces fumbles as well, man. So he's one of those guys that fly all around the field. And that's something that you need, man. You need high motor guys because your defense feeds off those guys. Like if you see a guy flying all around the field, you see a guy that just, sideline to sideline, like that motivates a defense. So I think if Kiko can actually do that and he can stay healthy, man, the sky's the limit for the Saints. We won a week one game in 2013. We started 5-0 in 2013. That was the last time we started 1-0. Dang, 2014 we started 0-2. 2015 and 16, and we started 0-3 2017. We were 0-2 in 2018. We started 0-1. Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible, man. We got to do better. We got to do better than that. That's horrible. Keen Arthur said Chris Collinsworth said the Texans are better than the Saints top to bottom and have more depth. Colin Cowherd is a shock jock. I don't like I don't know why y'all get y'all nerves worked up about a guy who really don't know what the hell he talking about. You know when people say, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Like he really don't know what he talking about. This guy comes maybe like 2 hours before his show starts, and he probably got his intern who probably looked up all these different analytics and stats and stuff like that. And then you got the producers of his show that feed him facts through his ear. And he got the papers and stuff like that he looking down at that his intern spent all night typing up for him. Colin Cowherd knows absolutely nothing about sports. I mean, he's just a great interviewer. He's a shock jock. He can generate emotion, and that's what these people look for, man. You look at some of these guys on ESPN, Fox Sports 1, man, these guys are caricatures. That's all they are. They're caricatures. Excuse me. And that's all they do. Their job is to try to shock you, Like, come on, man. I was watching Undisputed today, and they said that their top teams, they had Shannon Sharp said represent the AFC, he got the Chiefs, and represent the NFC, he got the Eagles. And then Skip said represent the AFC, he got the Patriots, and then represent the NFC, he got the Cowboys. And I'm like, okay, what is the common denominator there? Like all the teams that they mentioned are from big markets, like the New England Patriots, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, and now you got the Kansas City Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes. Like that's all they want to do. They want to appease these Cowboy fans and these Steeler fans and these Patriot fans and these Eagle fans, and they know what it is, man. They know how good the Saints are. But they rather talk about those guys because they want to generate those ratings. That's why they talk about Jerry Jones 2 and 3 segments. That's the reason why they talk about LeBron 2 and 3 segments. That's why they talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 and 3 segments. And Tom Brady, anything he do, they talk about him. Like they got to talk about those guys because they feel like that was generate ratings. But they know that if they do have a favorite team and if their favorite teams are actually the teams that they're picking, they know they don't want that smoke with the Saints. They know it. Like they know they don't want that smoke. They know they don't want them problems. So they can talk about it all they want to. They can talk about the Dallas Cowboys and they can talk about the Philadelphia Eagles who the Saints beat to sleep, and they beat twice last season. They can talk about the Dallas Cowboys who end up, playing that game like it was their Super Bowl. Whatever, But at the end of the day, they know they don't want that smoke with the Saints. They know they don't want it. So they continuously talk about these teams that they feel like all their, all the fans all across the country, they feel like that's what they want to hear. But they know they don't want that smoke with them Saints. They know the Saints are a better team from top to bottom. They don't want to give these guys any credit. That's why you hear people always talking about Drew Brees played in a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning world. You say that, they say that Alvin Kamara is a scat back. And they say stuff like Michael Thomas is just a receiver who benefits from being a wide receiver in the same system. Like they don't want to give these guys no credit. Like they basically just say, oh man, they just a team, you know what I'm saying? Like, but the Cowboys, you know what I'm saying? They got those guys who basically came out their mama womb as superstars. You're like, man, come on, man. Whatever. Jason and Whitlock, Jason Whitlock. Man, man, these guys jokes, man. I don't know what else to say about them. They're some straight jokes. Like, I mean, I don't even pay these guys no mind because they talk about so much nonsense, man. Like straight nonsense. I just feel like they just say some of the stuff they say. They just be trying to shock you, and they want you to comment down below. So that's all they want to do because they feel like controversy creates cash. And so that's my opinion about it. I just think all those guys, man, I think that all those guys phony, man. They just phony. So but that's my opinion. Breeze loves hitting his tight ends. It's been a while since he did, though. It's been a while, It's been a while since like Jimmy Graham, since he had a reliable tight end they can count on. And we all know that the Saints had a really good season that year. I think they went 13-3, so might be one of those seasons, man. Jared Cook can stay healthy. Saints are marching in and taking the Super Bowl championship back to NOLA. I hope so. I hope so, man. Like it's been rough over these past couple of years being a Saints fan. And usually, like when people's like it's rough, because they team terrible. It's just rough, man. Just watching these guys and knowing that this should be them, in the Super Bowl, especially last year. And you see, them lose that Minnesota Miracle game, and then Minnesota goes the next week and they get beat to sleep by Philadelphia. Like, if the New Orleans Saints would have beat the Minnesota Vikings, there is no way that the Philadelphia Eagles would have waxed them the way that they waxed the Minnesota Vikings. Wasn't happening. It was like, I'm not saying that the Saints would have won that game. They probably, could have won it. They probably couldn't. But it wouldn't have been what we saw in that Minnesota game. Like, we would have seen a pretty close game, because ain't no way Drew Brees is just going to let them boys just go out there and just stank it up like that. That wasn't happening. Cooks can block. Graham was a good receiver-wise, but he is soft. Look at how he played in Seattle and Green Bay. Jimmy couldn't block a toddler throwing a tantrum. God, dog, King Arthur. Man, sorry about this, man. I have a sore throat, man. I've been dealing with a little cold. My 3-month-old son, he's been sick. And of course, being close to him and taking care of him and stuff like that, man, I guess he got me, man. So I got a little cough and a little sniffle as well. So if I'm coughing throughout, man, that's the reason why, man. But hey, I wouldn't trade it for the world, So I wish I can have his full cold, like, you know how it is, man. When you have kids, man, and they get sick, you wish you don't want them to have any pain. You wish you could take all their pain. So, I got a little bit of what he had, so I ain't mad at that. But back to your comment about Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham is soft. I dubbed him Jimmy Graham Cracker. You know what I'm saying? Because he crumbles, under pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like he's soft. That's what I call him. Like Stephen A. say, soft as cottonelle tissue. That boy is soft. I was watching him play last night against the Chicago Bears, and I think it was like a second down play. He was in a game, and they had him chip blocking Khalil Mack. And that was the most pathetic display I've ever seen in my entire life. You would think that a guy has been in the league as long as he has, would have end up picking up the concept of being a blocker as a tight end, but he hasn't, man. Like, he'll go up there and get that ball like he did, and for that touchdown, but he can't block worth a damn. I mean, that's the reason why, in my opinion, that's what separates him from being elite, because you look at people like Gronkowski. Gronkowski was a great pass catcher, but he was a great blocker as well. You look at somebody like Jason Witten, you know what I'm saying? Jason Witten, slow as a snail, but he catches the ball and he can block. I mean, even Greg Olsen out there in Carolina. I mean, these guys can block and catch. Jimmy Graham is just a glorified 6'7" wide receiver masquerading as a tight end. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I've never been a fan of Jimmy Graham. I just never have been. As long as he was with the Saints, I just never bought into what he was doing. Like, I used to cheer, when he scored, because he played for the Saints, but I just never really been a fan because he never really showed up, and guys can actually punk him around. I remember one time when the Saints played the New England Patriots, and he went up against a key to leave, and he just let a key to leave just punk him around. So I just think that he just I think he's soft. I honestly, man, I just think he wet tissue paper, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's soft, That's all I can say. But I mean, I wish him success in Green Bay, but I just think that what we see out of Jimmy Graham is what we gonna get. Thank you, Jerry, man. I mean, I feel all right, man. I'm not. I mean, I got this little cough and a little sniffle and stuff like that. But like I said, man, I wouldn't trade it for the world, man. I wish I don't want my son to hurt or have any type of sickness, man. So I would take his pain any day. And I think any parent, man, if you got a kid, you know how it is. Like, man, you don't want your kid to be hurt or be sick or anything like that, man. Make you feel horrible. And then, he's a 3-month-old, so you can't really give him much. So you got to kind of let the cold just go past. So it's kind of rough to see, but hey, man, I love the little guy. Best thing that ever happened to me in my life. That what motivates me every day, man. I mean, if you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. Your kids motivate you and make you go that extra mile and find something inside of you that you didn't even know you had. And that's what he did for me. That's my motivation, man. But anyway, when Jimmy was in Seattle, his own teammates called him out, called him soft. Hey, I mean, when he first got to Seattle, man, you gotta understand, like, man, they had to have a come to Jesus meet because Bruce Irvin, man, he was ready to get that boy that fade, like because when the Saints played Seattle, I think in a playoff game, him and Jimmy Graham was jawing, and talking, and man, Jimmy Graham was talking, hot stuff, and I don't know if he can be able to back it up, but I think Pete Carroll had to pull both of those guys into the locker room and say, hey, man, like y'all teammates now. So all y'all got to leave all that in the past. And I remember Bruce Irvin went on Twitter and said, man, we ain't going to do nothing to you, man. I ain't going to punch you in the face. But I mean, Jimmy Graham, I mean, he was a basketball player, man, and he transitioned to the NFL. And he was one of those guys at the University of Miami, man. He didn't score a whole bunch of points, man. Basically, he was the goon of the team. And if you play sports, you know what a goon is, man. You know that guy that comes in the game. He basically just a guy that's supposed to rough up the star, like the guy that you're going up against, the star player. He comes into the game. He try to drive through the lane. You'll probably hit him with an elbow, a clothesline. You know what I'm saying? And then you foul out the game or something like that. That's kind of what he was. I mean, and then he started to play football, and he can get those 50-50 balls because he was like 6'7". But I mean, I just lost respect for Jimmy Graham when he was trying to get that wide receiver money because he was like, I line up as a wide receiver. And, they call me a tight end, but I'm a wide receiver. Like, you're a tight end, dude. Like, if you wanted to be a wide receiver, you should have tried to go out and be a wide receiver, but you're a tight end. So he was trying to finesse the Saints, man. And I'm glad that he ended up getting traded, man, because I think that Max Unger was the best thing that ever happened to the Saints on the offensive line in a long time. I mean, you had stability there. I mean, I feel like the Saints won. I mean, I know they ended up getting Stephon Anthony or whatever, and that was a bust. But at the end of the day, I mean, Max Unger was one of the best offensive linemen the Saints ever had. I mean, the guy just was steady. So I would take Max Unger over a soft Jimmy Graham cracker any day. You know what I'm saying? That's facts. Aaron Rodgers won't do with Jimmy what Drew did. Man, it all depends, man. It all depends on if the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, Matt LaFleur, can generate some matchups. I think we all need to understand how much of a blessing it is that the Saints have Sean Payton as their head coach. The guy is really a mastermind. I mean, he can put guys in position to succeed. I mean, no matter, if they're limited as a player or if they got a full arsenal. And I think that Jimmy Graham was eating because the Saints put him in positions for him to eat. And I think that he just got, kind of full of himself. I think he probably figured that, it's just me and all me. But the Saints molded him, man. They shaped him into the tight end that he is right now. And it's no coincidence that he hasn't grown or developed since he left the Saints. Basically, what you have is a guy who played for the Saints, and the Saints developed him. And when he left the Saints, he basically is the same player all this time. Like, so he didn't get any better and he didn't get any worse. So I think he took way more credit than he deserved. I think it had a lot to do with Sean Payton and the offensive staff putting him in positions, and not to mention Drew Brees tutoring him, teaching him, working with him. You're not going to get that with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is not that guy. Aaron Rodgers is a guy who expects guys to be what he wants them to be. I don't feel like he is going to take the time after a play and talk to him. He's going to pout if, you drop the ball or you're in the wrong position. He's going to go to the sideline, pout, you're on the sideline, clap his hands and be like, oh, it's everybody's fault but mine. But Drew Brees, I've seen Drew Brees several times, like, on plays, if a guy, didn't come back for the ball, or if he caught the ball in a certain spot, Drew Brees would go to the guy and be like, hey, you should have went here. Or if you would have turned around here, you would have got more yards. That's what a leader does, man. That's what and I feel like that's what Jimmy Graham had when he was in New Orleans. But everywhere else, I mean, you had Russell Wilson. He was basically learning himself. So what can he possibly teach Jimmy Graham? And then with Aaron Rodgers, he's too much of a me person, in my opinion, to actually worry about anybody other than himself. Let's see. Career hasn't been the same since he left the Saints. Absolutely, King Arthur. But he definitely rubbed me the wrong way when he tried to diss New Orleans after the trade. Yeah. It was before that, though. Like I said, when he tried to get that wide receiver money, that what left a bad taste in my mouth. We're not responsible for that. Sad excuse for a tight end. He is now. That's all him. I don't want to say he a sorry excuse for a tight end. I think he's a good tight end, but like I said, I don't think he's developed into what he could have possibly been. Do I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer? Absolutely not. He's a guy that's good enough to get a whole bunch of money because he's always going to be one of those top 4, top 5 tight ends in the league. But to me, man, he may be like a 4th or 5th right now. I mean, you got Kelsey out there in Kansas City. You got Kittle out there in San Francisco. You got Jared Cook out in New Orleans. I mean, you got some other. I mean, you got Njoku who's coming on. I mean, so Jimmy Graham, he getting pushed further and further back. So I don't know, man. He losing that spot. I remember like it used to be him and Gronk, but now it's like, man, he may be like a 4th, even a 5th. It's not about the Saints, but what's your thoughts on Antonio Brown? Man, okay, first off, before I mention Antonio Brown, please, nobody in the Who Dat Nation, please do not ask me, should the Saints try to get Antonio Brown if he gets released by the Raiders, okay? No. Okay, I'm going to answer that question right now. No. Okay? Hell no. To the no. Okay? So please don't ask that question. Okay, I know every time a player gets released or a player get cut, a player get possibly get on the trading block, people ask me, should the Saints go after this guy and that guy? Antonio Brown? Hell no. Please don't ask me that question, man, because that is the answer. And please, man, we do not want anybody like that in our locker room at all, man. Do you understand that the New Orleans Saints had a character issue problem back in the day, maybe like 2014 to about 2016? You remember them them years where you was like, man, like, why they keep going 7-9? Because you had people like Junior Gillette up in your locker room. You know what I'm saying? You had people like Brandon Brown up in your locker room, man. Like guys like that are cancer. Even a Brandon Cooks. Yeah, I said it. Even Brandon Cooks. I feel like there's no mistake why he ended up getting traded. We all know why Brandon Cooks got traded. And if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. The reason why Brandon Cooks got traded, because when the Saints played against the Rams, and the Saints blew out the Rams. The Saints was eating that day, man. They basically destroyed the Rams. But the thing about it is Brandon Cook didn't have no targets. It was, I think, in 2016. It was the first year Michael Thomas was in the Saints uniform. He was the rookie. He had a big game, and I think the Saints may have scored like 42 plus points or something like that. And Brandon Cooks got mad, and he went to his agent and said he wanted to get traded. I don't know if y'all remember that, but that's the reason why he ended up getting traded. Ask and you shall receive. The Saints had character issues in the locker room, and now they don't have those issues anymore. If you notice, man, you see a bind, some closeness in the locker room for the New Orleans Saints, man. These guys are like really genuinely playing for each other. You know how like some guys you play for you got to play for the person next to you. You know, all that the politically correct stuff. But you can really, like, if you follow these guys on social media, you'll see these guys like really on the sidelines encouraging each other. Like, that's what you want in a team. You're not going to get that if Antonio Brown comes into your locker room. To answer your question, what do I think about Antonio Brown? I think Antonio Brown is a locker room cancer. I also think that Antonio Brown is one of those guys that does not have a full grasp on reality. He's one of those guys and has basically took on this AB persona. You know, like in Deion Sanders' Hall of Fame speech, he talked about everything that he did for his mom. He talked about how when he was at home, he was Deion, but when he was on the field and when he was around a whole bunch of people, he was prime time. That was his persona. That was his, that was his his alias, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't something that he really was. But I think AB really kind of bought into himself. And I think that he really just is not a team player. He's not a leader. He's one of those guys that's all about himself, all about Antonio and nobody else. He don't care if the team win. He don't care if the team lose. As long as he gets his targets, as long as he get his touchdowns, and as long as his Instagram, his Facebook, and his Twitter is popping. I don't want a guy like that in the locker room. I don't want that. I don't care how talented he is. He can have the most talent in the world. But at the end of the day, like, nobody wants to deal with him, man. Nobody want to deal with nobody that causes that type of problem and friction in the locker room. So I feel sorry for him because he wasting his talent. And eventually he's going to get up there in age and people are going to be like, man, is it really worth it? I mean, I think he's like 30 or 31 years old right now, so he's getting up there. And I think he just needs to chill out. And if $30 million of guaranteed money is not going to get a guy to chill out, I don't know what will. This man got $30 million guaranteed dollars, and he still have issues. At first, I thought it was just about him not wanting to go to training camp. That's why I feel like all this circus was about. I thought, like, this helmet ain't right. This helmet is too hard. This helmet is too soft. This helmet is just right. I thought all that stuff right there was just basically just trying to get him through training camp. But now I see, man, he just all in it for himself. Now, I don't know, I don't know if his head injuries or what, man. I don't know if that hit in that playoff game that Vontaze Burfict put on him, mess with his, his brain cells or something like that, but I don't know what's going on with him. But he need to get it fixed, man, because eventually he gonna get old and teams ain't gonna want to deal with him anymore, man. But the Raiders, they desperate. They desperate to win, and I feel like they just gonna cater to him anyway because right now his production is and like his saying is booming. And as long as his production is booming, they're gonna try to keep him. And they're gonna tolerate him. But as soon as he dropped that pass that he once caught, or he stopped getting behind that cornerback that he once got behind. Man, that's my opinion. I know it's a lot, man, but I just hate when players just waste talent. Like, you look at people like Josh Gordon out in New England. Like, come on, man. Like, I understand. Look, I would just be 100 with you. I understand about addicts, my mom's first husband, he was addicted to drugs, man. He was a good guy, like really good guy, but he couldn't shake them drugs. I understand how that can be. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a good person inside of there. But at the end of the day, how many opportunities you gonna get, man? You know what I'm saying? How many opportunities you want to have? You gotta want to save yourself. You gotta want it, man. You know, like nobody can want this for you. And a lot of these guys, like they just think, okay, man, I got this talent, man. I had 12 touchdowns last season. They gonna deal with me. But man, you shouldn't even want to put a team through that type of stuff. You should just want to be great. You should just want to leave your legacy. I just don't understand that, man. Like you have an opportunity to do something that so many other people wanted to do in life, man, but they probably just didn't have the opportunity, didn't have the skills, didn't have the ability that you have. And instead of you like just appreciating the moment and the time that you actually have, because it's not alone. Instead of you doing that, you rather squander this and throw it all away, man, just because you fall into this trap of fame and popularity, man. Like for real. Like I understand everybody can't be a Larry Fitzgerald, throw the ball after he scored a touchdown. But at the end of the day, man, you should have a level of humility about yourself to know that it is an honor and a privilege to play in the National Football League, and teams are giving you this money. So sit your ass down somewhere, please. You know what I'm saying? Leave the drugs alone, please. Like all this talent. Like, can you imagine if, like that movie Space Jam, Josh Gordon talent can be sold as water? Like, how many people would actually drink Josh Gordon water? You know what I'm saying? Just to have his talent and his ability. Like, and this guy just squanders it, man. Like, it's just sad to see, man, when you see these guys so great and they just can't get out their own way. People like Antonio, people like Josh Gordon, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's sad, awful. But anyway, man, I mean, I know I went on a little rant, but it just irks me when I see that, man, because so many people, man, wish they had these opportunities that these guys have, and they can't get it, and these guys just squander it. It's just amazing. If you had to take one of these guys in a game tomorrow, who you taking? Jason David, Brandon Browner, Ken Crawley. Who you taking? I'm going with Ken Crawley. I'm going with Ken Crawley, man. I'm about to tell you why. I'm about to break this down. Jason David, straight slot corner, did his best work in zone. The Indianapolis Colts sold the Saints a straight lemon. You know what I'm saying? Straight up lemon. Put this man on the outside. This man wearing high socks like he Dion. Man, please pull your socks down, son. Anyway, Brandon Browner, I mean, has more pass interference or defensive holding penalties against him than any other player in the National Football League history. Brandon Browner had some good years with the Seattle Seahawks, but he still, got beat like a Persian rug. I'm gonna go with Ken Crawley, man. I'm gonna go with Ken Crawley because I know what Ken Crawley is, man. I mean, he did play on the outside a couple years. Yeah, he'll get smoked, but he had a couple good games, man. So, I mean, if I had to choose out of those three, I'd have to go with Ken Crawley, man. Jason David, no, sir. I think he the worst cornerback in Saints history. Him and Fred Thomas. Flip a coin, my friend. Jon Gruden is a pushover. They need to cut him loose, but Gruden won't because of his track record with trading stars since being in Oakland. Jon Gruden he's a modern day Mike Ditka. To be honest with you, Mike Ditka is one of those guys that loved the limelight, had a huge ego. Jon Gruden is one of those guys. He wants to be the man to be like, oh, I saved AB. AB was a locker room cancer, and now he's not anymore. Nathan Peterman, he was the laughing stock of the National Football League, but now he's a backup quarterback Oakland Raiders, and look what I did with him. He wants to be one of those guys. He wants to be a guy who wants to be the savior, like so. He has a track record, but this is a completely different NFL. It's not like how it was when he was coaching Oakland back in 2002. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, 2001. It's not that type of NFL anymore. You can get in guys' faces and challenge them. You can't really do that much anymore with these millennial players. They might start crying or something like that, or go tweeting and saying the coach don't like me. You know what I'm saying? So you got to deal with those guys, with surgeon gloves, what I'm saying, nice and tender, they might hurt their feelings. So I like his approach, because he's trying to appease to the younger NFL generation, so I understand what he's trying to do. He can't do the same thing he did with Keyshawn Johnson. He can't send AB home, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like Mike Mayock is basically Jon Gruden's puppet. Jon Gruden supposedly took on this nice coach role, this player coach role, but in reality, he is Mike Mayock. You know what I'm saying? Mike Mayock represents his 2001, 2002 Jon Gruden self, So he probably telling Mike Mayock, man, send this dude home. He probably is telling him, man, cut him. You know what I'm saying? But he don't want to go out there and say that. So he's the guy to be like, oh, we're going to get to the bottom of it. Like we're not going to discuss it right now. But in reality, he knows what's going on because he probably told Mike Mayock to pull the strings, because we have to understand that this guy signed a 10-year, $100 million contract. And Al Davis' son, Mike Davis, gave him all of the stroke. Okay. He has the final say in the final 53. He has he has the say so when it comes to the draft pick. So you don't think he has to say so when it comes to general managers and what they do? I mean, he hired Mike Mayock. You got to think about that. Speaking of Mike Mayock, man, since I'm talking about it, I don't know if y'all seen that tweet by Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas said, basically, why are we worried about what Mike Mayock had to say? I mean, this man thought that 5 other wide receivers were better than me coming in the draft, coming out the draft that I was in. So he took a shot at Mike Mayock, man. We know Mike Mayock. He was on the NFL Network. He was one of the scouts. He was one scouting some of these players out here. So anyway, like he was one of those guys that was actually scouting those players, and Michael Thomas took a shot at him. So I don't know, man. Mike Mayock ain't nothing but a puppet, if you ask me. Like I don't think that he's doing any of this stuff. I just think he's just following what Jon Gruden tell him. Jon Gruden can't say that because he's the head coach. So he wants to send Mike Mayock out there to do his dirty work. Somebody needs to pack Crawley's bags for him and put him on a bus to nowhere. I still don't understand how Ken Crawley is on his team. I still don't understand it. I don't know how in the hell this man still got a job. I do not know how. Man, I only can just think that he has some very incriminating pictures of Sean Payton in an uncompromised position or something, Dennis Allen or something. Man, he got to have something, because there is no way in hell this man should still be on the team. No way. No way, no how. I mean, he can play on special teams, and man, I ain't seen that much tackling on special teams coming from Ken Crawley. So I don't know why, man. He must got some pictures or something, man. I don't know what he got. He got some hellified dirt. I don't know how he passed. I don't know how he passed the cuts. I just don't. I just don't. They need to put Crawley, PJ, Where's the Ball Williams, and Eli Apple on a bus and just let it ride to the tread dwindle away. Oh, man. To me, man, I don't think Eli Apple that bad. Like I've seen worse. I've seen worse in the Saints cornerback, than I seen in Eli Apple. You know what I'm saying? Like, so PJ Williams, a good slot corner. You know, he's a big guy. I think he like about 205, 206 or something like that. So he's a big body corner. You put in the slot, he can kind of bully the slot receiver. So as long as he stay in the slot, I ain't got no problem with him. You know, he played a lot better when they put him in the slot. When you put him on the outside, toast bread. You know what I'm saying? Just call him straight toast bread. You know what I'm saying? So as long as he's still on the inside, I'm all right. Ken Crawley, definitely. And put that boy in that car and ride till the trees fall off. You know what I'm saying? That's the only person. Like PJ, that you can save him. Eli, you can save him. Crawley, ain't no saving that, bro. Ain't no saving that. Why we still got Crawley on the roster, man? I do not know, Jerry. I do not know, my friend. Jason Davis smoked like a brisket, burnt like a biscuit. Absolutely, man. If you don't believe me, man, go and watch that. Ironically, the Houston Texans against the New Orleans Saints. Andre Johnson was out there misusing and abusing that dude. I was like, oh my goodness, man. There's two performances at the cornerback position I will never, ever forget. No, I take that back. 3. Jason David against Andre Johnson with the Houston Texans. Bernard Berrien taking on Fred Thomas in the NFC Championship game in 2006. And Brandon Browner against, ironically, a New Orleans Saint player now, Ted Ginn Jr. when he played for the Carolina Panthers. I know it was the year the Carolina Panthers went to the Super Bowl, and the Saints played them in a Superdome, and I think at the time the Carolina Panthers were undefeated. And I'm talking about Brandon Browner was just out there. Oh my goodness, that man was getting destroyed by Ted Ginn. And the only reason why Ted Ginn didn't break an NFL record in receiving yards is because at the time we all know that Ted Ginn has questionable hands. His hands has gotten better, you know what I'm saying, since he's been with the Saints. But at that time, man, I mean, he was dropping 3 and 4 touchdowns in that game. That was probably 3 of the worst cornerback performances I was seeing. You could throw PJ against the Atlanta Falcons last year when Calvin Ridley almost became Offensive Rookie of the Year in one game. You can probably throw that in there too. Crawley, I think my grandma could block better. It probably could. Sign up. I don't think Eli Apple is a bad corner. Me neither, man. With the entire offseason and preseason under him, I think he will be better. I do too. I do believe that, man. I feel like what he was going through in New York, his teammates didn't like him. They thought that he was a mama's boy. They thought his mama was too involved with his life and, in his career. And, they left a bad taste in his teammates' mouth. He goes to New Orleans. You don't really see his mom in a limelight, and being a focal point. So it allows him to be himself. So I like Eli Apple, man. I feel like the Saints could have worse at corner. We all seen worse. Everybody can't beat Marshawn Lattimore. That guy's special. Like, to have a shutdown corner, a guy that you can count on to win those man-to-man matchups, that's hard to find. Everybody can't be that guy. And I think when we look at Marshawn Lattimore, we wonder why can't the other guys beat him? But there's a reason why he was ranked so high. The Saints were lucky to get this guy, man. I think they got him at like 11 or something like that in the draft, or 12. They were lucky to have that guy for him to even be there. I think that year he was supposed to be a top 5 pick, but he ended up falling because he had hamstring issues. And he fell into the lap of the Saints, which was crazy, though, because can you imagine if the Saints or the Kansas City Chiefs didn't move up a spot ahead of the Saints to get Patrick Mahomes? The Saints were going to get Patrick Mahomes. And you would have seen Marshawn Lattimore in Kansas City. That's crazy, ain't it? But that's weird. Like, we would have been watching. Well, that would have been crazy, because do you all think that if Patrick Mahomes was backing up Drew Brees, you think Drew Brees would still have been the quarterback for the Saints? Or do you think that the Saints would have ended up letting him go, and he would have been playing for another team. Ain't that that's crazy though? Like, because the Saints were really going to get Patrick Mahomes. Like, they were really high on Patrick Mahomes. And Kansas City knew that, and they jumped in front of him. They ended up getting him, and the Saints ended up getting Marshawn Lattimore, which, in my opinion, both teams won. Let's see. You remember the game against the Titans where a player said something to Brandon Browner, and he called the touchdown just to go to the other team sideline to square with. Hey, man, I remember that. And I remember when he went at it with Dennis Allen on the sidelines, man. Him and Dennis Allen, chest to chest or whatever. That was crazy. That's when I realized the Saints needed to do something different. Like, that's when I realized that the Saints had some locker room issues. Like, when I saw him doing that. Gruden has done nothing to deserve a 10-year, $100 million contract. I agree. He inherited Dungy's team. That's true too. What has he really done other than being known for turning red in the face and taking over established teams? He was a good Monday Night Football color commentator. Man. Jon Gruden, I don't want to take that away from him. I don't want to take that Super Bowl title away from him, because Tony Dungy, all those years in Tampa, yes, he did, bring those guys in, but he couldn't get over the hump. He couldn't do it. And Jon Gruden was able to come up in there, and he actually did it. I mean, sometimes it just takes those those coaches, because I think about the year John Fox was the head coach of the Denver Broncos, and they ended up getting blown out. No, let me take that back. Or was it Garrett Kubiak? It was either or. I want to say it was Kubiak who took the place of John Fox, right? Because the thing about it was, I think, yeah, Fox was the head coach. They ended up getting smoked. Then they ended up getting Kubiak, and Kubiak ended up winning a Super Bowl. I mean, it was Fox team. Fox was the one that actually got that team together, and they ended up winning because of Kubiak. You know what I'm saying? So the way I look at it, coaches matter. Sometimes you need that coach that are giving that extra rah-rah speech. It'd be like, oh, man, what I'm saying? Like, we need you guys to go out there. Maybe the other coach was a little bit too lax. He probably was a good team builder, but he couldn't get his, he couldn't get it done. I mean, you look at Philadelphia, all those years with Andy Reid, 5 NFC championship appearance, 5 straight, and they lose. You know what I'm saying? They go to 1 Super Bowl and they lose it. Then you got Doug Peterson, who comes in, and now you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they contenders every single year. So sometimes, you just need a different voice. Corey White was worse. No, I don't think Corey White was worse, because I give him a pass because Sean Payton did not draft him. You got to remember that. Sean Payton, that was the year that he was suspended, and he did not draft Corey White. So I'm gonna give him a pass. He wasn't supposed to be on the team. So I'm gonna let him go. He's a phantom player, in my opinion. Donald said he's the only backup that can play on the outside. PJ and Patrick look worse than him. I think Patrick Robinson and PJ Williams will do a decent job on the inside. I think that's where they belong. Let me see. You think the whole thing going on with Brees will make him play better or distract him? Drew Brees is in his 19th season. I think very little will distract Drew Brees. I think that Drew Brees understands what needs to get done. I think that Drew Brees understands there's nothing new under the sun. I think that he can block that out. And I think that anybody that's around here, once again, that is going at Drew Brees and trying to label this man as a lobbyist or a person that hates, homosexuals or whatever like that, I think you need to find yourself something else to do. Okay? Because this man, just look at the work this guy does, and just look at the human being that he is. And that's something I feel like is becoming a lost art. I feel like we just so quick to label people. We label people too easily, and we do not know these folks. I mean, I'm not going to say like at one time that didn't bother me. I was one of those people. I love to please people, and I would go out my way if I know a person didn't like me. I would really go out my way to try to make these people like me. I really would, because it was just the thought of somebody not liking me. But then I realized, it's nothing you can really do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. Just think about this. Like, if you have done everything you possibly can and a person still can't see your greatness or see that you're a wonderful person, you probably have to cut your losses, because they're never going to see that. And I just feel like, honestly, we live in a society today where people just want to put their stamp on something. Okay. That's why I feel like all this cancel culture is going on right now. They're so quick to cancel this, cancel that. It's not even about the fact that they want to create change. It's just the fact that they forever want to be known for that person that canceled that. They want to be the person that say, I took down this person. And, it's sad though. The people want to make names off others who work their whole life to be in a position that they are in. And a person can just come in and just like that, just try to take it away from them, all in the name of just trying to be known for themselves. They want to be known for taking down the person that is known. And I just feel like they're barking up the wrong tree, because Drew Brees is too respected by the NFL. People love this man way too much for anybody to buy into what this nonsense these people talking. And, I don't have anything against homosexuals at all. I'm just saying, like, I'm just going to be honest. They looking like bullies right now. They are. They're looking like straight bullies, because, you're fighting something that you say people in society are doing to you. You're saying people in society are bullying you. Well, I would say that you're becoming the bullies, because you're basically trying to take down anybody that has anything to say about you. But I don't feel like that's right, because no matter what you do, once again, there's somebody out there that is not going to like you. And it's not going to be because you're homosexual. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people just don't agree with that particular lifestyle. That don't mean they hate you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying Drew Brees did that, but I feel like they try to destroy every single person that feels that way. And I don't feel like that's right. I feel like, you can't bully your way to equality. That's not happening. Because okay, for example, if you have a child, right, and your child, you're trying to get them to eat vegetables, you're not going to pile vegetables on a plate, right? You're going to slowly, methodically give them vegetables until they start taking larger portions, right? So if you feel like you're going to force feed equality into somebody, it's just not going to happen. Okay. It's just not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of just take your time. Like, you cannot make somebody do that, because that's really going to just make a person mad, and it's going to make a person unwilling. So I just feel like you can't be a bully about it. You cannot bully somebody to liking you. You can't bully somebody into respecting you. That's just my opinion. I know I'm not trying to be, on some old political stuff, but at the end of the day, it's true. Like, you can't make anybody do anything. And I just feel like what they did to Drew Brees was just absolutely wrong. All he was talking about was bringing a Bible to school. Stanley Jean Baptiste. Ooh, man. Yeah, that was an awful draft pick. Worst draft pick in Saints history, in my opinion. I'm talking about because of the placement. He was a second-round pick, and they thought he was supposed to be the next Richard Sherman, but he was more like General Sherman. You know what I'm saying? Like, or Peabody and Sherman. You know what I'm saying? Like, shoot, he was definitely not a Richard Sherman. Corey White was what I called a Gatorade play. Get in a play at the last second and pretend he was in position after getting beat. Like, he ran off the sideline drinking. Man, bruh. Corey White was terrible. I must admit. He had some bright spots. You know what I'm saying? He had a couple good games. You know what I'm saying? We were like, okay, Corey, And then, you got them games, be like, oh, Corey. But like I said, man, I'm gonna give him a pass because Sean Payton didn't pick him. So I'm gonna give him a pass on that one, man. But he was pretty awful. Stanley Jean-Baptiste, though, man, worst draft pick. That's when the Saints were trying to turn their team into the Seattle Seahawks. And I think they had Rob Ryan as the defensive coordinator. And yeah, Jarius Byrd, a person I feel like the Saints should have traded for a bacon, egg, and cheese McBiscuit. And, they probably still wouldn't get nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, shoot, team wouldn't even take a biscuit. You know what I'm saying? Like, they couldn't even get a bacon, egg, and cheese McBiscuit for that boy. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't get him a sandwich for that cat. So, Jarius Byrd was awful, waste of money. I think they gave him like a 6-year contract. At the time, he was like the high-paid safety. And I remember how excited I was, man, him coming from Buffalo and playing for the Saints. I was like, oh, they got a ball hawk. Horrible. Keen Arthur, do people not realize the suffix phobia literally means fear of? Just because someone disagrees with you or doesn't support your life choices doesn't mean they hate you or fear you. See, that's the problem, Keen Arthur. People can't differentiate. They can't. Like we say that we live in a society where, freedom of speech reigns supreme, but we don't want to hear a person's freedom of speech, because if they say something completely different to what we actually believe, we label that person. We label a person a sympathizer, you know what I'm saying? So, so honestly, man, I mean, bruh, social media really bothers me sometimes because you can't really be yourself, on there because it's like people are just so quick to try to attack you. And I have a strong point of view sometimes on different situations, and people, they get upset with me. They think that I'm trolling, but I don't. I try to be open-minded about situations. I don't try to rush to judgment, and I don't feel like anybody should rush to judgment. I just feel like sometimes we allow people to kind of mold and shape our way of thinking. And we think that anybody that doesn't think like these group of individuals, something is wrong with them. But we all are different. I mean, look, we're all different. We think differently. Uh, we have difference of opinion on different situations. But at the end of the day, even if we can't agree, we should still respect each other's opinion. I mean, some of the things that people say, I don't too much agree with, but I respect their position. I respect, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. And that's something we need to stop doing as well. We need to stop trying to change people's mind, because if a person's mind already made up, you're not going to change it. It's best for you to try to just tell a person how you feel about a situation and just leave it at that. So I feel like that is what's going to get us what we need to be as people. When we can actually have conversations with one another and try to find a common ground. But until then, we're going to still have the same issues. I like a person as a human first, so you'll have my basic respect just for existing. What you do in your personal time is on you. Doesn't mean. Yeah, I agree, man. Like I can understand that. Me too. I feel the same way. I got love for everybody. I don't care, black, white, Asian, Hispanic. I got love for everybody. I feel like, we all should have love for everybody. I don't feel like anybody should be walking around here just hating somebody because of the color of their skin. I mean, because we're all part of the same race, and that's the human race. If you see somebody hurting or injured out in the street, are you telling me that you're not going to try to help that person because they're a different color from you, or they're different, culture from you, or something like that, man? Like, come on. Like, we're all people, what I'm saying? We're all part of the human race. So we just need to, stop all that. And me personally, I just feel like that's what Drew Brees, is all about. I feel like Drew Brees isn't that type of person, and I feel so bad for him because you could tell like it really bothered him the way he was talking, in that video. You can really tell that Drew Brees was really upset by that because he's a really stand-up guy, like really stand up. Steve Wynn says, ready for Monday Night Football? Absolutely, Steve. Absolutely, man. It's been a while, man, since we've seen a game that count. I'm looking forward to this. I really am. I'm really looking forward to this Monday Night Football game. I think it's going to be an exciting game. I think it's going to be a close game. And I think it's probably going to be one of the best games of week one. Yeah, he is one of the best quarterbacks in history. Absolutely. I think everybody's ready, man. I think everybody is ready. But who are you looking forward to on a Saints team? Who are you looking forward to seeing? Who are you looking forward to seeing? I would like to know. Oh, Metalhead. We were talking about Drew Brees. I don't know if you seen the backlash. Drew Brees did a commercial, and he was encouraging kids to bring their Bibles to school. And what happened was he was partnering with a group that was supposed to be anti-LGBTQ, and the LGBT community ended up trying to go at Drew Brees and saying that Drew Brees was a lobbyist. And Drew Brees made a video saying, that he doesn't support any hate groups or anything like that. So that was basically it. So let's see, Jared Cook. Everybody, okay. Goose 76 said Jared Cook. Man, everybody's saying Jared Cook. Right? Steve Wynn said Davenport. Okay, Davenport. I'm looking forward to seeing Marcus Davenport. Me personally, I'm looking forward to seeing Trey Hendrickson, man. I want to see what this guy does in a real game. I think he outplayed Marcus Davenport, and I would be highly shocked if he is not the starter going into this game against the Houston Texans. I feel like Davenport is probably going to be a backup. And honestly, I would like to see Marcus Williams, man. I've been a real big supporter of Marcus Williams, man. I mean, since his rookie season. I know that Minnesota Miracle happened, but it seemed like something happened to him, man. I guess because of the fashion the Saints lost, you see that play like everywhere. Even on the Thursday night game when they were celebrating 100 years, they showed that play. So I guess that's kind of like he's like the guy known for woofing on the tackle. He gonna forever be known for that. I'm sorry, like unless Marcus Williams goes out here and becomes a Hall of Famer, he can always be known for that. But he's still gonna be known for it because the Minnesota Vikings back in the day, they were known as the Purple People Eaters. And one of the defensive players that was really good was named Jim Marshall. Jim Marshall is in the Hall of Fame. But you know what Jim Marshall is known for? Running the wrong way when he picked up a fumble. And he's a Hall of Famer. But everybody know Jim Marshall for running the wrong way. So no matter what Marcus Williams does, he can go and be a multi-time Pro Bowler, all-pro, Hall of Famer. People still gonna talk about that tackle that he missed. I mean, it's just facts. It's tough. It's tough, but man, that's just what it is. That's what he's forever gonna be known for. I want to see Traquan Smith take the next step to being a number 2 receiver. Yeah, me too, man. Because in preseason, I didn't see much out of Traquan. Ain't nothing. I ain't see nothing. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see if Keith Kirkwood can be that number 2 receiver. That's what I'm looking forward. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. Like, because Traquan hasn't really done anything, so I don't know if he's saving his best for the game. But I ain't see much out of him, man. For me to be like, okay, yeah, he can be a number 2. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the question. And this question the first person that gives me the answer to this question, and how you do it is you go to stateofthesaints@gmail.com. That's stateofthesaints@gmail.com. The first person that gives me the answer to this question will receive a free State of the Saints podcast t-shirt courtesy of yours truly. Okay. So here is the question. Who was the first Saints quarterback to lead them to the playoffs? Do not answer down low because I will not acknowledge that. Okay. Who is the first Saints quarterback to lead them to the playoffs? Okay, the first person that sends me the answer to stateofthesaints@gmail.com will receive a free State of the Saints podcast t-shirt. And also, when you submit the answer, please put your shirt size in there, okay? And you have to give me, like, when I announce the winner, then I'll get your mailing information and stuff like that so I can mail it to you. But that is the question. Who is the first Saints quarterback to lead them to the playoffs? Stateofthesaints@gmail.com. First person that gives me the answer will win a t-shirt. All right. So will AK-41 break the bank? Yep. That's just what it is, man. When he's up, he's going to be the highest paid running back. I mean, I think the cap goes up 10% every single year. So, yeah, he is going to be the highest paid running back in the National Football League. Let's see. Alvin Kamara is one of those guys who always is going to be healthy, in my opinion, because he doesn't really take a lot of punishment. I know this season he's supposed to be the starting running back, but I don't think that Drew Brees. I don't think that Sean Payton is going to use him the way people think. I think that that's what he got Latavius Murray for him to kind of balance things out. And we all know that Sean Payton kind of goes with the hot hand at the running back position. So if Latavius Murray is getting like 4 and 5 yards a clip, and Alvin Kamara isn't, he's probably going to use him, and vice versa. All right, Donald. Okay, yeah, I guess that's a conversation between Keen Arthur and Donald James. Hopefully, defense comes out the gate strong this year. Yeah, Metalhead. I think somebody else said that too, man. Me too. So I think that I think they will though, man. I think they know people been talking about them starting slow and all that, all this time. I think they are going to really play like we've seen. They'll be all right. Yeah, man. But at the end of the day, I think that the New Orleans Saints are going to shock a lot of people. I know a lot of people are saying they're going to make the Super Bowl, but you have some people out here, who think that they're not. I don't know if it's a storyline that they trying to, put out, talking about, man, how they gonna bounce back. They said the same thing when they played in the Minnesota game. How they gonna bounce back from this NFC Championship? How they bounce back from this? And I'm like, man, now it's like, they want people to forget how the NFL screwed these guys over. I think fan base and the Saints organization are a bunch of whiners, but they can't be too much of whiners because they actually got a rule change. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. Like, so if there wasn't any type of admission of guilt, I don't think they would have had no rule change. I don't even think they would have put that into consideration. So I feel like all these people that are going at Saints fans and calling, like, Atlanta Falcon fans, fans, or lack thereof, they try to call the Saints fans whiners, and they try to say that, we just don't know how to lose and all that kind of stuff, man. Like, they saw what happened. I mean, we all know what happened. And they can pretend like it didn't happen. They can pretend like, oh, man, that didn't cost the Saints, whatever. You can say whatever you want to, man. But we all know that was the reason why those guys lost that game. We know it. And instead of them, just admitting that, they rather just sit up here and say, "Oh man, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. They had chances, whatever." So, in order for them to, in order for them to just sit around and pretend like this stuff don't exist, you know, I don't know what to say about them. I really don't. I really don't know what to say. Like, I don't pay none of those guys no mind. All I know is the New Orleans Saints are the most copycat, you know what I'm saying? The most copied, well, that's not a word, the most copied team in the National Football League. I think we all can agree with that. All right. Because the Saints have been setting the culture of the National Football League for the past, I'd say, about 3 years, right? We all know about the defensive celebrations, them running to the camera and stuff like that and posing with the camera. Now the next season, all the teams doing it. Everybody doing it. Then Teddy Bridgewater, he did the motorbike, you know what I'm saying, in the locker room to Chopper Styles. I'm not saying that Teddy Bridgewater made that dance. He said he didn't, but he brought it to the NFL. Next thing you know, everybody trying to do the dance. You know what I'm saying? So everybody trying to jock the swag of the Saints. Everybody trying to jock the swag, and everybody gonna be a recipient. If there's a bogus call or pass interference, everybody's gonna be a recipient because the Saints decided to change the rule. Period. So I don't pay none of them teams no mind because your team's jocking the swag of the Saints. All right, so everybody talking about how the Saints ain't relevant. Why your team doing what the Saints doing? That's all I'm saying. And I do, AJ. I think the Saints are becoming one of the most hated franchises because they're not a part of the natural order. If you look at the teams that had the most wins in the past 10 years, I think the Saints maybe ranked like 4th or 5th on that list. You have teams like the Green Bay Packers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the New England Patriots list. You get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, all those teams are historical franchises. New England came along later, but they still have 6 Super Bowls, So the way I look at it, the Saints are not part of that natural order, and when the Saints go up against those teams, it's rather they give them a run for their money or they beat those teams decisively. And the NFL like that. The NFL don't like the fact that the Saints are successful. They don't like the fact that the Saints have the all-time leading passer. They prefer for that to be a quarterback of the Patriots, a quarterback of the Packers. They don't want to see Drew Brees as the all-time leading passer. In that little small medium market down there in New Orleans, nobody cares about that. Like that's the way they look at it. So I do feel like the Saints are one of the most hated teams in the league. I don't think it's like how it is with the Cowboys. Like people just hate the Cowboys. They just want to see them lose. I just think that when it comes to the Saints, I just don't think they want them to be successful because they're not part of the natural order. I think people just, don't want the Cowboys to be successful because they just don't like the Cowboys. And they feel like the Cowboys don't deserve that type of attention, really, because they don't deserve that type of attention. But when the Saints, they actually deserve that type of attention, but they don't want to give it to them. So they try to find every reason to not to do it. But with the Cowboys, they find every reason to do it, even though they're not successful. Yeah, man. Donald, yeah, I hate the Cowboys too, man. Not a fan. I stayed in Dallas for like 5 years. Right after I came out of college, out of Jackson State University in Mississippi, I moved to Dallas, Texas, and I stayed there. And their fan base is like one of the most nauseating, delusional fan bases I've ever seen in my life. They hang on to them 5 Super Bowls, like with everything that they have. They act like they won a Super Bowl last week. I just don't get it. I understand how they get all this attention. They, I can name so many other teams that, that are not good right now that probably had more playoff appearances than they had in the past 25 years, and yet they still on TV. I don't know, man. I'm just not a fan of the Cowboys. honestly, I know I'm about to shock a lot of people when I say this. I hate the Dallas Cowboys more than I hate the Atlanta Falcons. I'm telling you, man, I do not like the Dallas Cowboys. Can't stand them. And you all know I don't like the Falcons. I don't like the Dallas Cowboys way more than I don't like the Atlanta Falcons. And that's saying something because we all know I can go on a rant about them Falcons and they sorry fans who don't even cheer and they have to pipe in crowd noise. You know, they got microphones all around the stadium because they fans don't get loud. I mean, we all know about the Atlanta Falcons fans, man. They're very casual, you know, like they're so casual you would think they're getting ready for a job interview. They're that casual, okay? So we know what it is. They only come out the woodwork when their team is 13-3 because they can talk about, yeah, now what? Like, and if you go down their timeline, they ain't saying nothing about no Falcons. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go down their timeline, ain't no rise up, ain't no Julio picture. All their pictures would be because of that from that season. Okay, if they were successful in 2017, you'll look at them pictures and all it would be with 2017 pictures. If they unsuccessful in 2018, you won't see no pictures. Okay, because they're not real fans. Fair weather. You think if we swapped out the Patriots with the Bucks, Tom would be cakewalking in the NFC? No, he would not. He has been eating off that sorry division that is the AFC East his whole entire career. I would challenge any individual to tell me a franchise quarterback in the AFC East other than Tom Brady. Let's take a look at this, right? Let's look at the AFC East here. Okay, you got the Buffalo Bills. Who they got? Josh Allen. Who they had before that? EJ Manuel. A whole bunch of other trash that didn't matter. The Jets, Mark Sanchez. They got Sam Darnold, and then they had Chad Henne. Then I think they had Brock Osweiler out there one. I mean, they have absolutely nobody, man. Like Tom Brady has basically been going up against mediocre quarterbacks every single year. Okay, none of those teams has ever had a franchise quarterback ever. So I mean, Sam Darnold is a franchise quarterback right now. Josh Allen, he's a franchise quarterback, but those guys, when Tom Brady first got up in there, I don't even think those guys were born yet. Shoot. I mean, they were like maybe like toddlers, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, man, he been eating off a sorry division all that time. I mean, you get okay. I mean, they was going 11-5, but what is that really? Okay, you going up against teams that don't have quarterbacks. You playing them twice a year, so that's about what. If you play those teams in your division, that's 3 teams. You playing them twice. I mean, come on, man. And also, all you got to do is win maybe like 4 or 5 more games against teams from other divisions. So, I mean, you could go 11-5, 12-4 every year because your divisions suck. So I don't know, man. Like Tom Brady been eating off a sorry division for a long time. Only one player in their division won 10 games in the season in like the past 15 years. Yeah, because they trash. Like I said, man, mediocre quarterback play. Tom Brady has been the only constant as quarterback in that division for the past 20 years. Yeah, Donald, but 6 Super Bowls is sick, bro. That's hard to do. Yeah, man. You know, look, I'm not hating on Tom Brady. Tom Brady is great. Like, I think I still think Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm not trying to discredit Tom Brady having 6 championships, but I do think that the rules are kind of slighted for him to succeed. And I think the league, kind of allowed them to be in these positions. And not to mention they're not the most sportsman-like team that you're ever going to find. They're known for being some cheaters now. So I think if you combine all that right there, you're going to win some Super Bowls. And but I still feel like Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time. I do. I feel like he's the greatest quarterback of all time in the era that he played in, Super Bowls that he won. I just feel like he's still better. But I mean, it all depends. Like it's irrelevant, because that's different eras. Like back in Joe's days, a defensive end can take a quarterback and put him in a German suplex. If you do that in today, they might throw you out the league. You know what I'm saying? So I guess it's just based on eras. Like so I feel like if you want to compare quarterbacks, I feel like that's kind of ridiculous. But, I just love the Joe Montana. I just think that he's the best. But if you think Tom Brady is the best, I ain't mad at you. It's like, it's like Jordan and LeBron. Like I'm a Jordan fan. I grew up watching Michael Jordan. I think that Michael Jordan is the greatest, but you probably find like, people now they think LeBron James is the greatest. So I mean, both of them are great. I mean, different stroke for different folk. So I just think that it's just based on the eras. BS Tuck rule basically gave him a Super Bowl. Let's not talk about the Seattle play that gave him a Super Bowl. Only Super Bowl I feel like he earned was against the Falcons. Yeah. I mean, Adam Vinatieri gave him like 2. Uh I mean, Seattle gave him 1. Instead of them running the ball with Marshawn Lynch, they throw the ball, and Malcolm Butler picked it off. Yeah, man. I mean, you gotta have a little luck on your side every now and then. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Tom Brady is still great at the end of the day. Lattimore versus Hopkins. Yeah, that's gonna be a great matchup, Steve. If Joe didn't get traded from San Francisco to KC, he would have 8 Super Bowls. Joe Montana was on the tail end of his career, and Steve Young was coming. So I'm not mad at the San Francisco 49ers for making that move. I think both teams actually won. Kansas City, I think in Joe Montana's first season, they ended up going to the AFC Championship game. They lost. I think, yeah, they lost that game. But Joe Montana did get him there. He still has something left in the tank. He still has something to prove. But I just think that Steve Young was coming and it was time for them to move on. I think both teams actually won. It's just the fact that Kansas City just couldn't get the job done. San Francisco, it took them a couple years with Steve Young when he won that Super Bowl against the San Diego Chargers. We all know about the trademark saying. He said, "Can somebody please get the monkey off my back?" Because, he was living in the shadow of Joe Montana. So I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see. They make sure that he doesn't have to see the Saints because no team sees the Saints on their schedule and doesn't sweat. Objectively, name me a team that wants to deal with the unpredictability of New Orleans. I don't think no team wants to. I don't think no team want to see the Saints. I don't think no team want that smoke. I think the Saints are the best team in the NFL. And only reason why, they don't get that attention once again is because they're a small media market. That I stand by that. Because there's no reason why the Saints shouldn't be in the news, or being talked about. Like even when they talk about great quarterbacks, they don't even bring up Drew Brees, which I don't even understand. Like I don't get it. And then, the crazy thing about it would be killing me when media people be talking about how players playing in domes don't perform well outside. Like you look at some of these guys, like Drew Brees went to Purdue. That's in Indiana. I mean, it snows in Indiana. You look at guys like Michael Thomas, Marshawn Lattimore, Von Bell. Like these guys played in Ohio. It snows every single year in Ohio. I'm like, that is the dumbest. Like, man, that is like the dumbest saying in sports. Like that dome teams struggle outside. Like who who come up with this crap? Like, I guess it is just to keep up storylines or something. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm like, that's the most ridiculous crap I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, these guys come from like all different parts of the country. Some of these guys come from cold weather college teams, warm weather teams. But at the end of the day, like, you got a collection of players. So how in the hell does them playing in the dome have to do with anything? That makes no sense to me. But, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast live. We're all looking forward to the week 1 matchup against the Houston Texans. Of course, your boy is going to be live after that game, win, lose, or draw. We're going to break down the game. We're going to talk about the high spots. We're going to talk about the not so high spots. And we're also going to be talking about some of the things that we can look forward to down the line. We're going to go live every single game, okay? After every single game, we're going to go live. And, of course, during the week, I'm going to be putting out podcast videos and keeping you up to date on all things New Orleans Saints. I'm looking forward to announcing the winner this Monday night, who is going to receive the State of the Saints podcast t-shirt. And once again, one more time, I'm going to give you the question, and the first person, well, I'm pretty sure if I give it to you now, you're not going to be the first person, but I'm still going to give you the question again. Who was the first Saints quarterback to lead them to the playoffs? If you go to stateofthesaints@gmail.com and submit your answer, I would really appreciate it. Once again, this is the State of the Saints podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at TJ_Jones_. That's TJAY Jones_. Also follow the State of the Saints podcast on Facebook, facebook.com, search the State of the Saints podcast. And if you have not already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are 2,100 subscribers strong and growing, and we need your support if you have not subscribed. And hopefully, if you looked at this live video, this won't be your last time checking your boy out. I really do appreciate the love and the support of each and every one of you. We are moving forward all the way to the Super Bowl, okay? Black and gold to the Super Bowl. I think y'all already know. So, till next time, all I have to say is, who dat? Good night, everybody.